we're back. What's up, guys?
I hope your earbuds weren't too loud for that one.
Yeah, sorry about that, but we had to get a pretty fun intro, so that's our
Of course.
Dude, welcome back. Well, hopefully you just listened to our NFL portion of the pod. Gonna hop into college football, NBA, college hoops, and golf now. So fun stuff. So first off, we'll go ahead and get it started with some golf, since we haven't talked about that in a while.
Sure, it has been a little bit.
So first big thing, this past weekend, Sony Open, Siwoo Kim gets the dub. Jordan Spieth played pretty well and then struggled. So any first initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, regarding Jordan Spieth, this isn't anything new. You know, he's kind of one of those streaky players that when he gets hot, he can be the best guy in the field. And when he starts to mess up and he's hitting his drives in the trees, and his game can really just fall apart. You know, he works a lot on momentum. And so, you know, I'm not really surprised by it. Jordan Spieth is going to be Jordan Spieth. I'm not worried about the season because of it or anything like that. He could shoot, 77, 74, 80. Well, I guess you wouldn't even make the cut. You could shoot 77, 80 and then come around the next week and win.
Yeah.
And, that's just Jordan Spieth. That's the player he's always been, in my opinion. And, some players are just like that. They just play, huge in the big moments. But when the game starts to crumble, they just kind of let it all go, to the ground. So nothing surprising there. But Siwoo Kim with the win, that's pretty big. Is that going to lead him to be, one of the favorites for a lot of events this year? It could be. I mean, he's always played really solid golf. He's got a great, fundamentally sound swing. And, I think he could be a big, a guy to watch out for in some of the majors and bigger tournaments this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Siwoo's going to be a guy to look out for. I think there's a lot of young guys on tour that are going to be to look out for.
Oh, yeah.
As I mentioned earlier in one of our first podcasts, Max Homa, just a lot of young guys who are up and coming on the tour, which I think is great for the tour.
The tour's in great hands with the young talent coming up right now. Absolutely.
So on Spieth's side of things, I couldn't agree with you more. We've seen this over and over again. Kind of last year, it kind of looked like he was going to get out of that and more into the more consistency phase. But once again, after this, you kind of think maybe not. So it'll be interesting to see over the course of the year if that changes, if he can get into consistency.
And I think part of the reason why he's one of those players that's always, tweaking with the swing and something like that. He's always working on some new feel or working with the swing coach, trying to get, I think last year the big thing was trying to get a little more laid off at the top. And, then he just kind of bounced all over the place. But, it is those type of players that they find the right feel on Monday and they play a good practice round Tuesday, and just the game's feeling great, and then they just go win a tournament out of nowhere when they've been miscut. And we've obviously seen Jordan Spieth, he can put together in some incredible weekends of golf. So, he's still going to be good. He's going to have good finishes this year. He's going to miss cuts. It's just the nature of players that are like that, really feel-based players, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. Another point in the golf world, LIV has signed a TV deal with CW.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, until now, I mean, at least when they first started, the LIV was just like on YouTube Live and stuff like that, which, I mean, that's pretty accessible. Most people have YouTube, or you have like a smart TV, or you watch on your phone or your laptop. But I think getting a TV deal is definitely the next big step. Will you ever see them on like a mainstream, like ABC, NBC, Fox? I doubt it, but you never know. I mean,
if CW starts making some money,
right,
and those bigger streams see it,
right.
I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be really, really hard for me to turn off the PGA Tour on CBS one day and go turn on the CW to watch LIV.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
As a fan of golf, I might watch the LIV if I'm bored or something, and the PGA tournament that weekend is someone's ran away with it, or it's a Thursday and we can't watch.
I can't get over the shotgun start. I think that is stupid. And I think that having 48 players, and I know that's the whole thing, the whole point of it, or whatever it is. I think it's 48 players in an entire tournament. Yeah. I don't understand it, and I don't know.
And don't they do like 54 holes?
Yeah, that's why it's LIV.
Right.
That stands for 54. That is why, and that's the whole point of it is Roman numerals. That's 54, which their whole point and their whole thing is only 54 holes Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know. I think I still have not gotten on that train,
Yeah,
and I don't know if I ever will. I don't care how many players you pull over there. I would still rather attend a PGA Tour event, still rather watch the PGA Tour.
100%.
I see PGA Tour as authentic golf. I view the PGA Tour as more of the more serious, more fun. Now you go over there just to make money.
Right.
That's
I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Like it doesn't seem like quote unquote real golf when you make all those changes to the rules. And like you said, I mean, I'd
when
rather
and I'm sorry to cut you
Go
off,
for it.
but when you're making so much money to lose,
right.
and when you're getting all this stuff to lose,
Right.
then what is the point?
Right. You look at a golf tournament, depending on the player, and I'm sure it's a mix of both for both, for all players. It's you want to win so that you get money, and you want to win because you cherish like the legacy of certain tournaments. Like you want to win the Masters because it's regarded as the most important golf tournament.
The Open.
And one of the greatest things to do in sports is winning the Masters. And there's only a certain, short list of people who've done it. So some players probably don't really care much about the money, especially if you're an established player who you're not worried, week to week. Some of these new guys.
John Rahm's a perfect example of that.
Right, like John Rahm. I mean, he's not worried. He gets sponsorship money from Callaway. I mean, he makes bukus, tons of money. He's not worried about. He doesn't want to win the Masters to get whatever the purse is for the Masters. He wants to win the Masters because he wants to wear a green jacket and he wants to be able to say, yes, I won the Masters in my great golf career. But some of the younger guys, I'm sure money's a huge incentive. I mean, even
that's why
you make
college guys go
right.
There.
You make a lot of money on tour, but like especially on like a Corn Ferry tour or something too. I mean, some of these guys are still. You need to place top 20, or else you're living in the van for the next couple weeks.
So, do you think that letting these guys from LIV go play in the Masters is the right thing?
It's hard to say, but if I was the Masters, this is my perspective of it. If I'm any one of the major committees, which of course we know that it's like separate from the PGA Tour to agree, that's why they can be allowed to have LIV guys play in these tournaments. If I'm, Augusta National chairman and I'm looking at my tournament with the Masters, I want the best X amount of players, however big the field is. I want the best players to play in my tournament. Whether they play on the PGA Tour, whether they play on the LIV, to me, it doesn't really matter. If I was them, I would let the LIV guys play in the Masters as well. And I think it also is really huge for the LIV because I think that could be, like we said, some guys who care more about the legacy of the PGA Tour. Obviously, that's probably not the, demographic that's going to go to the LIV because people that do that, obviously, it is huge money is a huge incentive. But I feel like for the player who could be a mix of both, it could be that extra bonus that I will go to LIV knowing I can still play in these majors, right? Where if it was you knew you were banned from all majors and all these golf tournaments that you grew up caring about, and like you watch on TV as a kid, you hear all these guys. I watched so and so Tiger at the U.S. Open. I said I want to go play in the U.S. Open and win that event. Players who do care about that, it would definitely be discouraging. If you knew going to the LIV would mean you couldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I still haven't really gotten on a side with this. I completely agree with what you're saying about how it's the Masters committee deciding these things, and they shouldn't really care. I mean, it's their tournament, their event. They want the best golfers, and I agree with that completely. So if I was the Masters committee deciding that, yes, I would agree. But as a bystander, as someone watching, I kind of almost don't like that they get to play in it.
Because you feel like the LIV players, now I'm not putting words in your mouth, tell me yes or no. You feel like the LIV players have like disrespected the PGA Tour and that, and like the game of golf in a certain way that you shouldn't be allowed to still attend an event like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people will disagree, but
a lot of people would agree with you too.
But a lot of people would disagree, and that is the Masters, the Open, all those are for the longest time, we have seen those as PGA Tour events.
Right.
And now anybody can play in them, especially the Opens and stuff like that, because it is the Open.
Right.
But they are certified PGA Tour events. That is what has been like.
They've always been associated.
In the past, if you qualify for the Open, I'm going to go tell people I played on the PGA Tour.
Right.
And now that has switched over because we have gotten this new LIV. And another thing, we can't really say that the LIV is wrong for what they've done.
No.
Because they are starting another golf league.
Sure.
And
which in this world you're 100% entitled to do.
So, and a lot of people are saying that. And that I am not saying that by any means.
No, yeah, I agree.
I am just saying that I don't know if allowing these players who have left to go to another league should be allowed to come back and participate in a certified event by the PGA Tour.
Because I would be willing to bet that 90% of people who even watch golf pretty regularly a year ago, before the LIV was a thing, probably didn't even know that the majors were separate from the PGA Tour. You see it as a PGA Tour thing. Pretty much every player playing in it is a member of the PGA Tour, and that's how they qualified to get into that event, through their membership status and points and wins and runner-ups, etc. So, yeah, I mean, before you get down to the nitty-gritty of it with this new golf league, I bet you most of golf fans, probably some golf players, probably didn't even know the two are separate entities, essentially.
Well, so my thing, and I mean, this isn't the greatest example in the world, but this to me is almost like, think of the Masters as like an all-star game.
Yeah.
This to me is almost like taking guys from the Euro League who play basketball, taking guys from other basketball leagues across the world and saying, oh, come play in it's like the NBA saying, oh, come play in our NBA all-star game.
I think that's a pretty fair point. I never thought about it like that, but I mean, that kind of makes sense. And again, like, it is kind of even, to add to your point, another similarity is like, most of the guys playing in the Masters and the majors and stuff like that are probably still going to be PGA Tour guys.
Yeah.
Whereas also this, like, if NBA All-Star Game was from around the world, you'd still probably see, if there's however many 20 guys or whatever in the NBA All-Star Game, you would still probably see 17 or 18 NBAs because the talent pool in the NBA
mostly is
generally regarded as the best basketball talent pool, whereas still the PGA Tour is still regarded as the best talent pool of golfers.
Yeah.
But, that's a good comparison. I mean, I
know that the All-Star Game isn't a separate thing in the NBA. We know that the All-Star Game is NBA's thing.
Of course.
But I don't know. That's kind of a way I've thought about it. I think that this is going to continue to get interesting, especially now that they have a TV deal. I really don't think that the TV deal is going to do them much good. I mean, I don't know many people that are going to watch CW. And I don't know. I think that it's going to be interesting to see. I know they're supposed to have more events this year, which, once again, I don't really understand because their whole thing was only play this many events and
just the summer
hang out
or whatever.
The rest. And now they're doing more. So I think another thing is the LIV golfers don't really know what they got into. They kind of just hopped over there because they were getting paid.
Right, because I mean, you're a golfer who might make, let's just put your perspective as like Louis Oosthuizen.
Yeah.
Where you're like, on the PGA Tour, if I play pretty good, he's had a good career already.
Yeah.
And, if he plays pretty
guys like that, I understand.
Right, because like if he plays pretty good, like he already got to play in all these big events and live his PGA Tour career. I'm in the same boat. I understand.
Guys like DJ, I understand.
I understand, that would be the demographic where it's like, well, am I just going to keep being kind of a mid-level PGA Tour? Not saying DJ is. He's still kind of in his prime, but all those other guys who are kind of aging out of the tour, it's like, do I want to go make $2 million a year? And like I have to play good to make that, or do I just want to go guarantee myself all this money
and have fun playing?
And also now you've had your career
on
the PGA Tour, and now you have the money.
A guy who was in the younger and didn't really get to fully play out his PGA Tour career and was getting to his prime. I want to give props to Harold Varner.
Yeah. Because
he came out and he said on Instagram, listen, I'm sorry, but the reason I'm doing this is because I have generations that I can have money for.
Right. Which I respect the honesty.
Yeah, no, me too. Because a lot of guys didn't do that. Right. A lot of guys were like, oh, no, I'm here to stay. And then 2 weeks later, jump ship.
And they also sugarcoat their reasons. They're in a press conference and they're like, yep, no comment. The typical, politician way of, just working around questions, not answering. Harold Varner literally said, man, I'm going to make all this money and I got to do it for my family and thinking about people, later down the road.
Because he was like, I can go give it to my kids, their kids, their kids. He can have his great-great-grandkids set off of what he's done. Right. And I can't blame him for that.
Yeah. And also shout out to Harold Varner. He does a ton in the youth golf community also with the youth on the course. He's a North Carolina guy, went to ECU.
Yep.
And so, out of all the people on the LIV, definitely, I think, on behalf of the C2 Sports Podcast, we're backing Harold Varner. I've always been a fan. He seems like, obviously, I don't know.
Where's the Jordans?
sponsored by them. I mean, that's really cool as a golfer. You don't normally see that, but yeah. Anyway,
No,
I
agree.
forgot what I was gonna say. But, Harold Varner, man,
Harold Varner's the guy. Yeah.
I've always liked him. I don't know him personally, but he seems like a great guy. From anything you see in the media,
I mean, at least he was honest about it. There's no reason
Right.
to be upset with him over that if that is his reasoning, which makes sense.
Right.
So, once again, I mean, that'll kind of wrap it up. But I think it's going to be interesting. I'm sure we're going to have plenty more talks about this as the golf season kind of kicks into gear.
And see how both leagues change and adapt, which we've already seen a ton of.
We'll see what this TV deal does for them starting in February, the LIV. So, yeah.
I'll take my last point on this. On just my overall stance is like, for the game of golf, I think LIV and any other tours that might sprout up because of this are great for the game of golf. It makes more people be able to play golf professionally. It brings golf to a more, worldwide audience. The more tours you have out there and the more people that are able to play golf, for money where you could sustain your life, not just where you have to, do 2 jobs or you just do it for fun or whatever. It's good for the game of golf and it grows it. And likewise, I mean, it's good for the PGA Tour. If you're a fan of the PGA Tour, you may be lost. Maybe you're a fan of Dustin Johnson or 1 or 2 other guys that I would say are like pretty relevant in the top 25 or 30 players who you enjoy watching. Everybody else, nobody's really watching Phil unless you just really have some special connection. He's really not competing that much. So you didn't lose too many of the great players like you thought you might when it first came up. But I mean, the PGA Tour now, because of it, they're increasing their money pools. They've done that thing where they're got their schedule for, 15 or 20 events where they have the top 25 guys committed. So it's almost like you get to see a ton more like how you treat majors where it's man, everybody's playing. Because, you get those tour events sometimes where it's oh, yeah, you got a couple big names.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously everyone's good golf. I'm not trying to talk down all the other golfers. If you're on tour, you're an elite golfer. But there is those names that the household names that everybody you might have your favorite golfer. And there's a lot of weekends where, there's only 3 of those guys in the field or that are one of them that's competing. But because of the LIV Tour, you have all these extra events where you have all these guys that have committed to play. So you get a ton more, important events throughout the year, quote unquote. And you get a lot more money. So, the tour guys should be grateful too that it happened. Their purses are getting boosted a lot. So it's good for the game of golf. LIV good, LIV bad overall, morally, ethically, whatever you want to say. Take your side. Again, I'm still kind of on the fence. I see a lot both ways, but my stance for the game of golf overall, it's growing and I think it's good for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up our golf portion. I think we got into that pretty well.
We did, yeah. That was a little unexpected, but hey, that's what happens on a podcast. We just get chatting.
So next we'll hop into just a little wrap up of college football. Just a few little things. First of all, with the transfer portal just wrapped up, do you have any opinion on who the best player in the transfer portal was?
It might seem a little bit partial, and I know you're in agreement with this, so I don't want to take your thunder on this one here, but I know Devin Leary's a great player. He was impactful. He's got, I believe the 1 year left.
Yeah.
And it was, is he going to stay at NC State? No, he didn't. He entered the transfer portal. And, I think talent-wise and the impact he could have to a team-wise, I think Devin Leary could be arguably the most important transfer.
No, yeah, I agree with that. Just to talk a little bit about NC State football, we did get Virginia transfer quarterback Brennan Armstrong. Interested to see how this works out.
We saw him at the basketball game the other night.
Yeah, we saw him at the basketball game the other night. Really interested to see how this works out because we do have MJ Morris, who is an up-and-coming, looks like could be a star.
Right.
Don't want to jinx anything, but possibly.
But he showed glimpses.
Yes.
Where he was playing really
the
good.
big question is, are we going to let this guy come in, play QB under his old offensive coordinator for a year, or are we going to let our young guy get in there and start developing so that in his junior year, in his senior year, he can be the guy?
Right. If I'm NC State, it's looking from the outside in. It's hard to say that they would be, all chips in on MJ Morris when you just went and got this transfer quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost seems like just the
nature
of it.
Battle.
It seems like there will be an off-season battle. The job will probably be won in training camp. I think that you equally for either player have, just enough reasons to start them or bench them. And it'll probably be an off-season battle. And, that could really training camps and preseason, that'll probably determine who's
Yeah.
going to be the guy, at least to start the season. And then obviously anything subject to change with poor or
Well, we've seen
good
how important it
performances.
is after this year, how important it is to have more than one guy who can play.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, especially in the college game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, on top of that, we saw TCU get smoked in the Natty against Georgia. Went over that last week.
Yeah.
Will TCU recover now that they've lost Quentin Johnston, their wide receiver, and Keandre Miller?
I think this is the scenario we're going to see. It's the scenario where I don't really think that. I mean, yes, they're losing big players. The rest of the talent on their team is pretty good. Not, I wouldn't say fantastic. So what I could see is the next year or 2 or 3 years, I could see them just having like pretty good years. They'll probably be ranked in the top 25. I don't think they're going to make it to the playoffs now with the playoff expanding. Maybe once it gets to 12 teams, I think they're going to be in that talk generally. But I think what we could happen is see this ripple effect where they make it to the national championship, and obviously they didn't play a great game, but that gives your team a lot more publicity and puts them in the spotlight for recruits. And so what I could see happening is, give them 2 or 3 years to, because of being in this national championship game, get more better recruits in, and then start to build up a team that you see more.
Does being in a
routinely.
national championship and getting blown out by 60 want recruits will go there though?
I think the famous phrase as, any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
It's a hard word to say a couple times in a row. Bad or good, they're in the spotlight. I think recruits are still going to want to go there because it's like, I don't know, they got cool jerseys.
No,
it's
yeah, I love their jerseys.
That's like doesn't seem important, but they got cool jerseys. Like obviously they're a team that can.
The
make
atmosphere
it there.
seems like it would
right,
be fun.
Right, it's like it's different than your typical going to Alabama as a 5-star, and like you could go
Small
to TCU,
school, small
and
private
maybe
school,
play a little better, and just totally different atmosphere. So I think we could see the ripple effect happen where take where they are now, have a couple mediocre years, but then the ripple effect of being in the national championship and getting better recruits 2 or 3 years down the road. I think they could become one of those teams that becomes a powerhouse for a couple of years just because of making it to the spotlight once.
No, yeah, I agree. I don't think they're gonna fall out and be like they're not gonna make the playoff anytime soon.
Right.
But they're also not gonna be terrible.
Right. They're right.
And I think Sonny Dykes, their head coach, is a great coach. Obviously, he got him there in his first season as head coach, so definitely something to be said for him and that coaching staff. But yeah, I agree. I think I kind of depends on how you say recover, what you define as recover. But I would say that they probably will be probably middle of the pack, maybe towards the top, especially now that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the Big 12.
Right.
So be interesting.
So could they become one of those teams that's kind of like Clemson in a sense, where it's like relative to all the other powerhouses, you don't really have a tough schedule. So it's one of those things where you just beat all the decent teams and go undefeated, and you just make it in automatically.
First game next year, TCU plays Colorado.
That will be interesting. Obviously, if you don't know the whole Deion Sanders situation, and he's totally flipping that team upside down, bringing in a bunch of different recruits, bringing his guys with
transfer
him,
portals
and just the culture of that program totally changing. So, dude, that
could be an interesting game.
That game might come down to the winner being able to have a
pretty good
somewhat easy schedule down the road, and the winner could end up having a pretty good year. Or I know he said they probably won't make the playoffs, but maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say. But,
I don't know.
But,
I think Colorado's going to be a lot worse than people think.
You think so?
Yeah. I think
it takes more than an offseason to
I think now, don't get me wrong, we'll give those young guys that he's getting 2 years to develop.
Right.
They could be pretty good.
Right.
But I think that next year is going to be a really eye-opener for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Hop into some NBA. First off, other night, Hawks played the Mavs. Just going into that, one thing that we wanted to talk about, way in the past, who won the Luka-Trae Young trade way back when they both got drafted? They did a swap. Hawks ended up – the Mavs were who got Trae Young.
Right.
Traded him for Luka, which –
turned out to be a pretty dang impactful trade. I mean, obviously, both those players have turned out to be stars.
Yeah, but I would take Luka over Trae Young any day of the week.
I'm in the same boat, man. I think the Mavs won that trade 100%. Obviously, Trae Young's a great player, And, in his own respect, I mean, he's an NBA All-Star. But, Luka's in the best player in the NBA talk.
Well, going off of that, who in the NBA would you classify as untouchable? Who are you not, no matter what?
Luka, Giannis, Tatum.
So if you got offered Giannis for Tatum and you could get Giannis to give up Tatum, you're not doing that?
Yeah, no. If I'm the Celtics, I'm sticking with Tatum. I mean, he's again one of those players in the, best player in the NBA talk discussion category, and he's young. He's younger than Giannis is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
what about like the Joker, Jokic? Are you trading him if you get offered Giannis?
I think he might be another one of those players that is untouchable. Now, hear me out. I'm not saying that he is a 100% defined better player than Giannis.
No, you're saying in that situation.
But I'm saying in the situation where it's like you have your identity as a franchise and you've identified the guys that have played great for your team and you really like and you just want to keep them around for as long as possible and they fit into your scheme and the relationship they have with the coaches is good already. Obviously, they've stuck around. Love them. The fans love them. Like, it changes an entire franchise when you get rid of any player, especially a star player. So it's like the untouchable guys. Obviously, if there's one defined best player, then you would only have one untouchable by the logic of would you trade him for him. But I think the untouchable category has to do a little bit more with just the player's relationship with the team and the fans and like how they fit into the scheme and stuff like that. So I think that, if I was any one of those people, I wouldn't trade. Is Giannis the most physically dominating player? Yeah. But if I have Jokic and he's just part of my franchise, then no, I wouldn't trade him for Giannis.
No, yeah.
I'd put them four in the untouchable category. What about you? Do you have anything to add or any more players that you might add in that category?
I would definitely go Luka. Luka's my boy. I don't see Mark Cuban wanting to get rid of him by any means.
To add to that, I think this was real that I saw this, and I think Mark Cuban was getting asked at an interview by some reporter, and he said, so if it was the wife or the Luka, who would you choose? And obviously referring to get divorced or trade Luka away, because I think he was getting asked about this Luka versus trade, and he said, well, if I had to choose, I'd be in the courts by Monday. Getting the divorce, I think, is what he's referring to. So,
Well, I would go Luka. I would go Giannis.
Yep.
Tatum is tough for me. He's a baller, but I'm thinking if I'm playing 2K and somebody gave me Giannis to have instead of Tatum,
which you can speak from experience, Tatum is on your dynasty team that we've been playing in 2K lately. So,
and I know 2K is not the real thing,
right?
But that would be hard for me to not accept that because Giannis is just a whole nother level of a basketball player, dominance wise. But I would probably put Tatum in there. I can see that being one of the leading scorers in the NBA this year.
And just with the trajectory of being so young and so great and just fitting that scheme well. And I think generally all Celtics fans really love Tatum. And I think he really enjoys being there too, which is huge for a player. I mean, you see a player maybe like James Harden who might not be satisfied in a situation. It can take down your level of play a ton.
Would you put Embiid in there? I can't because if you offered me Giannis for Embiid, I'm taking Giannis over Embiid.
Yeah, I think that's where I would draw the line with Joel Embiid.
Yeah,
I think that would be probably the first one out.
Yeah,
because I mean you can only have so many untouchable.
I think Jokic would be out for me too.
Really,
I think that I would take. I mean, I would rather have Luka. I would rather have. I would take the Joker over Tatum, but I wouldn't rather have Giannis. I would rather have Giannis over the Joker.
Right. Because the way I draw the line is I could realistically see on pull up ESPN one day and it's like Joel Embiid traded to XX.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really
that's the way you got to think about it.
I really couldn't see that with Luka or Tatum or Giannis or even Nikola Jokic. I just couldn't really see turning on the news and seeing that they got traded, no matter what it's for.
Yeah.
Which obviously is the whole definition of being untouchable.
Yeah.
But
all right. Now, lastly, into some college hoops. So this weekend, well, actually, first of all, let's talk a little bit about Kansas State, Kansas game. Great game. went to overtime. Kansas State ended up pulling it out. Kansas State, I believe, was ranked 14th. Kansas number 2. Huge win for Kansas State. Are they the real deal? I think they may be. Kansas is really good, as we saw them win the Natty last year. Now, can Kansas State keep this up? I think they probably can. Will they? I don't know.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Once again, check out that bracketology episode that we'll be coming out with at the beginning of March.
A lot of research will be put into that, so we will definitely have.
It'll be a fun episode. It'll be a long one, but it'll be fun. Other than that, is there anybody on the top of your mind who you know is the best player in college basketball?
It's hard to say so early. I feel like when you get to where it really matters, when you're in your conference championship and when you're in, March Madness, I think really the top
Zach
players.
Edey.
I think the top players, come to shine, and that's where you really find out, who's really the real deal. But as far as like just passing the eye test and early on with stats wise, I think Zach Edey's got to be up there. I mean, what is he, like 7'4"?
7'4",
and obviously leading one of the best teams in the nation, averaging well over a double-double. I believe it's like 22 and 13 at the moment. And, obviously you look toward being the best player in college basketball, being 7'4" is a huge advantage. And you look toward being in the NBA, 7'4" even in the NBA is still giant.
Yeah.
And when you see somebody dominating like that, I would say most dominating. Again, we've kind of brought this up in the past with talking about the NBA too. Like, who's the best player? Like, are you talking about skills, like stats?
Yeah. You got to really define.
The most valuable to their team or like dominating. I think Edey's definitely the most dominating physically, and just like kind of like Giannis would be the most dominating player. Who's the most skilled? I probably would say it's not him, but who? And then you also look at who you take away from the team, like who's the most valuable. Essentially, like you take him away, what is Purdue? Or you take away so and so, what is that team's identity now? But I think you'd definitely be the front runner. Not a hot take, but
I would take him or Wilson from Kansas. I think, as you were saying, I think Wilson could be considered the MVP. I think if you take him away from that Kansas team, Kansas is not nearly as good.
Right.
Now they did just lose, but I think
any
that
team could be any. It's
in college basketball, anything
lose
can
at this time in a year. Who really cares?
Yeah. So, on top of that, as we mentioned earlier, huge matchup this weekend. NC State Wolfpack traveling to Chapel Hill to take on the Tar Heels. As state students, we're rolling Pack all day.
100%, baby.
But is there any key notes, key thoughts?
Historically, when you look at NC State,
the last 40 games, Carolina is 35-5.
And I don't know if you have the stats prepared off, putting you on the spot here as far as when we're over in Chapel Hill.
Oh, it's not good.
But I can't imagine the stats
we haven't
get
won
any better.
in Chapel Hill in a long time.
So, just looking historically, I don't really see there being anything just extremely special to be why we would win in Chapel Hill. Obviously, it's a great game. It will be a great game. It always is with rivals. We talked about with Duke, and Duke's ranked higher. It didn't really seem to matter. We just blew them out of the water, which we've already talked about that, I believe. But obviously, I'm rooting for NC State. They've proved a lot in the last week to me.
Yeah.
If you asked me a week ago, I would have said there's no doubt in my mind. Obviously, bias as an NC State fan, I would tell you Carolina's going to win.
Well,
but
a thing that I think is going to be big for us is if we can have that guy to play behind DJ Burns-Smart. Because Tuesday we played Georgia Tech, and we had only DJ. Ebenezer Dewana was sick.
Right.
So will he be back? We don't know yet.
That's huge.
And then another thing that I've been hearing, I don't know how true it is, but Dusan Mahorcic might be playing.
Really?
Yeah.
In this game?
Yes.
Wow.
I have no clarification.
Wow.
I've
Just
seen it on Twitter. The rumor mill
Twitter
is that Dusan could possibly play.
Wow. And
now, will he play a lot of minutes? Probably not.
Right.
But he could be what we need to just give
Right.
Burns that break.
Oh, if we could get 5 to 10 minutes out of him, that's really could mean all the difference as far as Burns staying fresh throughout the game, where every time he's in, we can feed the post reliably and know he's not gassed.
Yeah.
And like you said, having down a big for Georgia Tech.
Take Burns out of the equation. Say Burns gets in foul trouble. Say he needs a breather.
We're done.
There's nobody to guard Baycott.
No, we're done.
There's not.
Right. Foul trouble, right? You got to think about, we're not saying anything.
And I'm not saying
that's not out of the ordinary.
And I'm not saying Greg Gant or Ernest Ross can't guard people. First of all, I think Greg Gant's one of the best defenders in the college basketball.
And Ernest Ross has really been coming into his own. I mean, he has a ton of confidence.
Games been playing really well.
I mean,
so I'm not taking a shot at them at all. I'm just saying Armando Bacot is a completely different physical presence.
I mean, literally, it's like if I was some great basketball player at my size, I couldn't guard him. I'm way too small. Yeah. Obviously, those guys are still way bigger than me.
He's a completely different physical presence. Now, DJ Burns, I think, could put a body on him.
Right.
And I think Dusan could. But once again, we're going to need him back. Right. Will he be back? I don't know. And I don't think – I mean, we saw last year, Ebenezer DeWarner can't guard him. Ebenezer was our starter last year, and he couldn't guard Mondo. Right. So it'll be interesting. I'm really, really excited for our guard matchup. Jarkel Jordan and Terquavion versus R.J. Davis and Caleb Love.
That could be 4 of the best backcourts there.
Oh, that's in the nation, man.
In the nation,
That could be really, really fun to watch, especially if they get going at each other.
Yeah. If they get going at each other and they're knocking down some threes, and of course we know Terquavion can just freaking shoot lights out.
Somehow, some way, this game is not on ESPN. We're on ACC
Network.
Network.
Such a shame. That is such a shame. So anybody that doesn't have access to that is just the fact that it's not on ESPN is ridiculous to me.
Both teams could be ranked.
Right. Both teams could, and at least for NC State, we should be ranked.
After this week, one of us. I think after this week, one of us will be ranked.
100%.
Either they'll get ranked again, or we'll be in there.
100%. So. I mean, if we win this week, there's no reason that we couldn't be moving. I mean, inside the top 20, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I think basically we were pretty much last one out or first one out this last week with the rankings. So, I mean,
I'm glad we're not ranked because we never played.
We want to be the underdog mentality, and man, you see our guards start to. Have a shootout game and they're feeling hot. DJ Byrne gets another 16 points in isolation, which we've already talked about so many times. That's just huge for your team when you're in like that just stagnant half-court offense and you can just give it to him and he's going to create his own points. Yeah. He's not going to get a transition bucket. That's not how he's going to end up with 15 and 10. It's going to be all created. Yeah. And as long as we can keep the size in the game, like people without foul trouble and EB comes back and we got, at least enough size to compete. I mean, it's going to be a fun game. Of course, we're all going to be rooting for NC State. And I legitimately think we can get it done. That'd be huge to beat Carolina and Duke, basically back-to-back with another ACC game in between, another win. But, it's going to be a good game.
2 ACC wins in between. Right. Miami and Georgia Tech.
Which, 2 quality ACC wins. Obviously, we had lost to Miami earlier in the year, but.
Yeah. Well, tune in tomorrow, 5 o'clock, ACC Network. We'll be tuned in.
Oh, absolutely.
Y'all make sure to tune in also.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty much it.
That about wraps it up.
Yeah, about wraps it up. Like we said earlier, be on the lookout for news on our social media pages. We're going to be better about that. We've still been lacking, so we'll be better.
We'll say it again next week.
Yeah. But other than that, take it easy. Appreciate y'all listening. C2 out.